This is Conversations with Safe Harbor Therapy, where your friendly practitioners from Safe Harbor Therapy Center come together to discuss life, wellness, and other topics that are important to you. Our team at Safe Harbor Therapy Center offers health and wellness services for body, mind, and soul to clients in Winnipeg and the surrounding areas. And I am Carmen Okmatovsky, marriage and family therapist and director of Safe Harbor Therapy Center. Welcome to the conversation. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Conversations with Safe Harbor Therapy. It's been a little while since we recorded, and we're really excited to be back at it. Today, I'm here with Adina Lakser and Tessa Wilderman. Both Adina and Tessa are practicum therapists at Safe Harbor. Tessa's in the middle of her practicum, and Adina's just starting practicum in September. So I thought it would be a really fantastic opportunity to bring both of them on and talk about what brought them to this work, how they work, and what they're learning and some of their insights as they're going through their practicum. So let me start with introductions. Adina Lakser is a graduate of Brandeis University near Boston, Massachusetts. Since then, through the course of her career, she has worked in Indigenous health, in health and health equity, in mental health and addictions, and has done community-based research. A few years ago, she got training as a spiritual care provider, and then she worked in private practice as a counselor, relational coach, and tarot reader. And then recently, Adina went back to school and is currently doing her Master's of Social Work. So, Adina, we're excited to have you here for your practicum.
Oh, so great to be here.
And now Tessa Wilderman is a graduate of University of Manitoba in 2014, and then since then her career path has included horseback riding coaching, working in the veterinarian industry, and project managing for construction. Oh, and marketing. So many different things. So a couple of years ago, Tessa began her Master's of Counseling Psychology at Yorkville University and is currently at Safe Harbor in the middle of her very long practicum. Tessa, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so today we wanted to touch on a couple of things. The topics that we really want to cover are the finding the right fit for you and a therapist and the therapeutic relationship. I'm curious for both of you, what brought you to this work? What made you decide to go into this line of work?
So I have always been drawn to working with people. I have found through my undergrad that I have certainly had an affinity for psychology, add in a few years of life experience there and wanting to go back from my own personal journey, from my own growth, and seeing the benefits of psychotherapy on not only others around me, but also myself, and really wanting to share that with others.
It seems like you've done so many different things in your career that it probably exposed you to all different kinds of people from all different walks.
Absolutely, yeah. I have definitely seen all kinds of people in all kinds of different circumstances. And I really like to take a lot of the lessons that I learned from those very different careers and bring them with me today. As I mentioned, just kind of seeing that as life experience and learning from others and learning about myself.
Mm-hmm. And what was it that made you come to Safe Harbor in particular? Because you were looking and you decided you applied here to Safe Harbor.
Yeah, so my kind of journey to Safe Harbor is a little bit twofold. I had done a little bit of research. I was familiar with Julie as well. And I was just really drawn by the collective, the community that is here already, and the very holistic approach to wellness that is very prevalent here, right? There are all kinds of different wellness practitioners, and I just felt this pull towards it. They, they've aligned with a lot of similar values that I have as well too, and it just really felt right.
Oh, good. I'm so glad that you decided to reach out. Okay, so Adina, over to you. I'm curious what brought you to this line of work.
So like with Tessa, my first experience with therapy was as a client, and I've worked with a number of different therapists and coaches over the years, and just really found the process engaging, creative, transformative. So that I think was my first sort of experience of like I want to be more involved in this world, and then as well I was working a lot in health, mental health, but more from like a systems and community level, and I was finding myself really longing for that more intimate one-on-one relational process. Certainly that exists in community work, but of course it's different, and I just with my training as in spiritual care and working as a therapist, I just find that this is just such enriching work for me. It's so intellectually and creatively stimulating. I love how there's so much going on in a session in terms of past, present, need, them, thoughts, feelings. I just find that it's a really right fit for my busy brain and my sensitivity. I feel like a lot of things about me that make it sometimes hard to live in the world actually are really positive and helpful attributes in the therapeutic world.
Room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a personality type, hey? To be a therapist.
And I mean, I also love being around therapists. So like when when you are a therapist, you also get to be around other therapists.
It's true.
Like right now.
I couldn't agree more.
So we wanted to talk today about finding the right fit for clients, and you both had some thoughts on finding the right fit and what clients should look for, or like what that experience is like, because as we know, everybody, including ourselves, when we're looking for our own therapist, like it's always a struggle, and it's like one of those really vulnerable pieces of looking for a new therapist. Like, oh my God, am I going to go to this new therapist? Am I going to like them? Are they going to like me? Am I going to feel safe? Am I going to feel stupid? Am I going to like totally click and like pour everything out on the first session? Like, what is it going to be like? So yeah, Tessa, what are your thoughts on finding the right fit?
Yeah, I think part of finding the right fit is also a little bit of preparation to it, and considering what it is that you are wanting to seek therapy for. Right? And so maybe considering what some of your goals are, what's bringing you into therapy, and how is it impacting you, right? These are questions that likely you'll discuss with your therapist. So having those kind of at the forefront of your mind beforehand is going to really help you determine what type of therapist you might want to gravitate towards. And yeah, just thinking about what some of those preferred outcomes are. What are you wanting to work on most if there's multiple things that you're wanting to work on? Yeah.
I have a question there. When you say like I think I heard you say the type of therapist, like what kind of types of therapists might people be looking for?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I think from types there can be a few different ways that you can see that from, and that might be what approach they're using. Are they using cognitive behavioral therapy primarily, right? So CBT. Are they using a narrative approach? Are they using art therapy? And what kind of speaks to you from that approach? And also, how's that personality coming through is another type, I suppose you could look at it as, and what type of person do you tend to work well with, and considering that in your choice of therapist as well.
I like that thought. It occurs to me that one of the things that for myself really important is to feel really seen and really heard, and other people I know just really want to feel very loved. Right, and other people want to feel like respected and coached. So, kind of depends.
Yes, yeah, some people want really practical, sort of a lot of practical tools to come out of therapy. Right. Some people want more of an experiential kind of relationship happening, and
absolutely.
I think a lot of times when we're looking for sort of a service, you'll Google who's the best in whatever car mechanic, and I think for therapy it sounds like we're all the best. It sounds a little everyone's special, but it's sort of also like it's difficult there isn't really one best, because we're all looking for something different in terms of the therapy, and so I think even sometimes people will refer friends or family to a therapist, and sometimes that match really works well, and sometimes it doesn't, because one person may that may have been the right therapist for them, and they're excited to share that contact, but it may not work for another person.
Right. Yeah, I think it's such a personal choice and personal experience, right? It's much like we choose, for example, friends or people to date for a certain reason, because there's certain personalities that we are more gravitated towards or that we work well with. And so that's not entirely unlike a therapist relationship as well.
Exactly. It's like none of us is the best. But we may be the best for a certain person.
Yeah.
Or at least a really good fit for a certain client.
Right. And therapists it's not neutral. Like therapists come in with their values and with their worldview and with their own social location and their own experiences. So that also is definitely a part of the match, and someone who has a similar approach may work better.
Right. Yeah, and how the therapist is bringing themselves into that space, because we are human as we come into this space together, and those components will come through. How do we communicate as well, and what values we hold will show through our work, and having a therapist that you work with that aligns with that can make that process feel a lot more comfortable, can allow you to achieve a lot more of those desires of feeling validated, feeling seen, feeling respected, right? And aligning in those ways.
So then how might somebody going into a therapy session, like how would somebody know if they've found the right fit? Like what should they be aware of or be looking for?
That's a great question, and a bit tricky in terms of like you want to feel like comfortable, and yet you may also want to feel a little bit challenged or have some new perspective, that the therapist brings in some new perspective or a new approach or brings something up that you may have not looked at or thought of, which can be uncomfortable. So it's this I think there's this tension here between both feeling really comfortable and heard and perhaps safe or safer, and at the same time also having some sort of expansion or insight after the session.
Yeah, I think that was really beautifully said, and I think to kind of add to that too, in feeling safe enough that you can have your input, right, and knowing that you are coming to a professional who does have additional studies and experience, but also your life, right, and you're the one that's lived that, and feeling safe enough to provide feedback to your therapist and let them know, hey, this is working or this isn't, right? That can be a very vulnerable thing to do, and to know if you're in a good fit would be acknowledging that you would feel comfortable enough bringing those topics up, as that continues to develop, right?
I mean, I don't think anybody feels, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people don't feel comfortable spilling everything on the first session, right? So it is a relationship that grows, and of course we don't feel like, soulmates on our first session with a therapist, but as long as it does feel like a place where it's safe enough for you to do some exploration, and where you feel maybe like something isn't, that you're not leaving sessions feeling like something isn't sitting right with you about the therapist or about your interactions, or you aren't left wondering like, is this really a good idea for me to be, pouring my heart out to somebody? Because it is a very vulnerable situation, right? And there is a power dynamic, like the other person isn't telling you much or shouldn't be telling you much about themselves, and it's not just a coffee chat, right? I was thinking, I think we mentioned this before we started recording, Tessa, that clients of course are looking for a fit, but therapists are also looking for fit. And so if we have a new client come in, and while we may on paper be a good fit, like I may have a specialty that lines up with what they're looking to work on, I may be aware as they talk, I may be aware of things about myself about the things that I work with, or even my own triggers or something, that I'm thinking I might not be the best person for this client.
Yeah.
Like this client, like I'm not comfortable, or I know that I have something, in my past that's going to get in the way of me approaching this really openly. Or I might even say, like, yeah, I could do this, but my colleague could do this so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are times when even today it happened, where I was like, you know what, like I would love to work with you, but I think you would find even more of what you're looking for by going with this other colleague.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's always a little bit tenuous to say that to a new client, because you don't want it to feel like a first date who ghosts, or like, you know what I mean, and just be like, thanks but no thanks. It's not like that, but it can feel that way on the other end as a client.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be told by the therapist that they won't work with you, but really it's so much more about like making sure that the client gets the best experience,
Right.
and that we're making sure that we're not going to be doing harm, rather than a rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Right. For both sides, I think, like, as someone who's looking for a therapist, you may have to meet with a few different therapists, or you may move along in therapy for a bit and then feel like it's not the right fit. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's like, that's so mean to do that, and it's really not,
No.
and it's really it's not personal. Therapists know that not everyone is the exact right fit, and sometimes we can identify that at the start, like you mentioned, Carmen, but the other way around might happen, and this is part of the process, and it's so important to have the right fit. I think that, and it can be overwhelming or draining to look for someone new, or you've started a relationship and then find someone new. I recognize that, and yet I really encourage people to take that time and listen to those cues, because it will make a really big difference.
It does make a big difference.
I think doing a little bit of shopping around, trying that on, right? Just because the boxes are being checked, being in that space with someone can be a bit different, right? And therapists have not only a personal interest, but an ethical duty as well to be mindful of working within their limits of comprehension, and practicing with clients that they think that they can be compatible with. And if they know of someone that they could be more benefited from, then encouraging them to go that way. And it's a wonderful benefit of working in a collective too, is having these other resources around us, and knowing, hey, you might work better with someone else. And I feel like that is rather than a rejection, although it can sometimes come across a little bit like that at first, rather than a rejection, in a way, this is kind of our kindness coming through in a way of, I want what's best for you, even if that's not me.
Exactly.
Said.
So speaking of the fit, I'm really curious for the two of you, what kind of client is the right fit for you as a therapist?
Yeah, I think certainly I'm still exploring that, right? I'm in still an early stage of my practicum, and I'm kind of seeing, Adina, we were chatting about this the other day, and how you do attract certain types of clients to come see you, and what you are putting out, right? Just like that fit. And so I am seeing a lot of clients coming to see me with anxiety, depression, ADHD, feeling lost, and a lot of shame as well. And so I've really grown to kind of appreciating working within those realms. Really enjoy continuing to develop, and I really enjoy working with clients with their sexuality and sex-related concerns. Also exploring emotional awareness and expression. I do incorporate a little bit of goal setting, but I also really enjoy balancing that maybe more direct approach while also incorporating creativity into some of our more kind of classic techniques. I love putting spins on them and encouraging people to maybe step just a little bit out of that comfort zone.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot, because I don't know if our clients fully understand what you're saying, but I'm really curious about what you mean by creativity in those classic approaches.
Yeah. So, for example, I've always kind of considered myself maybe leading up to this a bit more of like a type A, organizer, goal-oriented person. And I found myself through these years of self-exploration kind of leaning towards more creative sides, right? I also really enjoy dance. I consider these creative expressions that might be able to express some of these emotions that are not as easily expressed through words. Mm-hmm. So, for example, some homework that I like to assign to is using a photo a day journal. Ooh. Or incorporating art into your journal, or using movement and dance as a form of expression and releasing some of these emotions that have been carried through. So I like to create personal and creative spins. Mm-hmm. Kind of take what someone has already and really just kind of hone in on how we can modify certain techniques to really maximize that expression.
Mm-hmm. All right. I love that. I love the photo a day.
Mm-hmm. It's been I really like it. I've started to do it myself actually too. And a lot of comments are sometimes, I didn't do anything exciting today, or, I'm not really sure what to do. And I'll encourage people to go, if today was a beige wall day, then that picture can be a beige wall, mm-hmm. right? It doesn't always have to be something that is beautiful or remarkable. It's just meant to be an expression of what you are feeling that day.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, in our world, like there's, especially social media, there's an expectation for photos to always be really beautiful and polished and exciting and always very produced. And so I love that idea of reclaiming photography, because most of us have a camera on us at all times, right. And sort of reclaiming photography as something for yourself and for expression and for reflection rather than for necessarily production.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like, what is mindfulness other than like noticing, mm-hmm. right? And photography is like the ultimate noticing, just sort of like focus for a moment and capture it.
Yeah, I love that connection that you made there too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how about for you, Adina? What's the kind of fit for you?
As well, I'm early in I haven't started this practicum yet, but I'm early in my career of being a therapist, so I can't necessarily articulate who is my ideal client. But I remember when I was in my private practice a couple years ago here at Safe Harbor, and you and I, Carmen, were talking about our clients, and I was talking about how I've been noticing that I was seeing a number of people who were in or were leaving abusive or toxic relationships. Mm-hmm. And in my head, that seemed to be like, that's sort of in many ways an ideal client for therapy in general, because folks in that situation are really looking for some support in navigating. And you were like, oh, that's not necessarily who I see. And I was like, my fit is unfolding here. Mm-hmm. And so yes, as well, when I've worked in community and my last practicum, when I was working at a community health center, certainly I was seeing a lot of folks who were working through abusive or toxic relationships, maybe not even necessarily recognizing sort of that dynamic was going on and the impact it was having on them. As well, I seem to work with a lot of people who have a lot of self-awareness and a lot of self-insight, who have busy brains as well. And, we all know that can come with a lot of gifts, but a lot to navigate as well. Mm-hmm. So, I work, and so along with that is often folks who are struggling a lot with self-criticism. Mm-hmm. And then as well, particularly I think sort of because I can incorporate tarot into counseling sessions, I work with a lot of folks who are interested in spiritual expression, mm-hmm. Sort of exploring connection, meaning, purpose, understanding how they fit in the bigger picture. Sometimes that is through religion or more structured spirituality, and sometimes it's a more humanist approach.
Okay. So we also wanted to talk about some of the stigmas that come along with therapy. Now, a lot of our stigmas the stigmas around therapy have started to dissipate. especially with the younger generations, like everybody's got a therapist, which is fantastic from our point of view, and therapy is widely accepted as sort of like your repertoire of health professionals, but Tessa, you were mentioning a couple of the stigmas that you'd been noticing when your clients will come in and start to make comments. What kind of stigmas have you noticed are showing up in the therapy room?
Yeah, a few stigmas that I've noticed is this idea that we might be these all-knowing people that are aware of these insights that our clients are not, and certainly we have our professional background and additional learning, but again, as I've mentioned before, our clients are the experts of their lives, right? And we're not sitting there writing secret notes and encrypting anything. Even as we write notes, they're frequently just for memory purposes, right? Or
it may not make sense to anybody else.
Right, yeah. Sometimes there's some interesting shorthand, just so that you're not having to stand there writing out every thought that's coming up, right? But it's not that there's any secrets. I'll frequently tell my clients even, hey, you want to look at my page? That's fine if you can read my chicken scratch, but that there's no, we're not trying to hide anything. We don't have this all-knowing power, right? And kind of naming that in the therapeutic space can help to dissipate some of that stigma and address it.
So, like, therapists aren't psychics.
Right.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
It's easy to confuse.
And neither is the tarot.
And neither is tarot. Oh my gosh. It is. I think it is a little bit unnerving, though, to have somebody, like, sitting across the room and looking at you and then making notes, right? It's like, we experience that in the doctor's office, but not very many other places where somebody's listening to us tell personal details and then making notes on it. So it can be kind of like a little bit, unnerving. But the point is that we don't do that to add to a database of information on our client. It's like you said, to jog our own memories and to make sure that we have some cohesion between sessions.
Yeah.
Right. What do you notice, Adina?
I think in a similar vein, it's sort of the, are therapists psychic, and or are they always analyzing everything that we do and making sort of a judgment about our wellness based on that? Like, for example, when I invite someone into the room and there's a number of chairs or couches to choose from, I invite them to choose which where they want to sit, and I usually joke it's there's not a right answer here, and I won't analyze your decision because there is that sort of feeling of like, and certainly part of therapy is being really aware of what's going on for our clients and what's going on for ourselves in sessions. That's a big part of it, but we're not observing everything and analyzing and judging sort of where people are at based on which chair they choose.
Yeah, I think that key comment that you made too, we're not judging, right? We might have an awareness and a perception of the surroundings and what's going on, but we're not there to analyze and judge, right? We're not setting up tests to see what you're going to do, and if you do XYZ, that means you've got some sort of personality because of this, right?
My goodness, can you imagine how exhausting that would be?
Yeah, I don't think we could even handle that on a day-to-day basis and still function.
Thank goodness that's not the job, right?
Yeah, not the job. I mean, certainly as someone who considers themselves a highly sensitive person, I'm taking in a lot of information, right? I'm trying to gather information, but it's not there to judge.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Gather rather than judging. I think that's an important distinction.
Or even like noticing and letting go. Like, my brain is also very busy, Adina, and so it notices everything. Yeah. But I've also learned to kind of laugh at it and let it go. Like, not everything holds the same importance. Right. And hopefully we've come to enough self-awareness that we can like let things go and like not. And know what is the important information and what's not. It's definitely not important if you sit on the couch versus the chair, but if you come in looking like you've just like lost your best friend, that would be important. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's also where that relationship piece comes in. I mean, certainly every session matters, but when it's part of an unfolding relationship, then you also you also learn in the process with your client about what's what you may notice might be important to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and acknowledging kind of what their normal is. If we're going to throw out the term normal, but for each individual, right? Like you mentioned, if someone's coming in there and you can tell that something is very different from your usual sessions, yeah, you're going to draw attention to that, right? Because that isn't what they're normally like.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to switch topics just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious what both of you have as your goals through practicum. Like, what do you hope to learn? Where do you hope to end up at the end of your practica?
Yeah. I have a few goals that I've started to identify. I'm certainly wanting to expand on some of my knowledge of different approaches as well. Further past practicum, continuing on some education, including EMDR, for example. But really this is also, and will continue to be a goal, is that I'm constantly learning from my clients, and seeing that beautiful resilience of people that come in, and really taking that away. I think that is what has been so fulfilling for me, and so gratifying in through this practicum process, is seeing that while clients will come to us with difficulties and challenges and barriers, there is this beautiful resilience that can be honed in on, and that is just, at the end of the day, what fills my cup, and I just want to keep learning from all of my clients. Yeah.
What happens with clients when they reach the end of your practicum? Like, you are we're in August, your practicum ends in December. Yeah. What could clients expect if they came to see you now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will be continuing through September into December with my practicum. I anticipate going into my own private practice, ideally through Safe Harbor as well. So what clients can expect with that is that sliding scale fee is still going to be eligible throughout that practicum, and that I would ideally be continuing those services. With the holidays, there might be a brief blip there around those holidays in December, but otherwise, hoping to kind of continue to be able to offer those services.
So, like, if somebody came to see you starting now or in September and they wanted to do some longer term work, they wouldn't necessarily need to end with you in December.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now, Adina, you're starting in September.
Right.
And you're going all the way through...
Until April.
April.
Yeah, end of
so
April.
You've got a good 8 months of practice. Yeah. And then do you have specific goals through your practicum or for your practicum?
I think, like Tessa said, to sort of really sort of hone some of my approaches and sort of explore different ways of working with people through my work. As well, I would like to start working it with couples and families.
Ooh. Wow. And do you know if you're going to be going back into private practice after?
I hope so, yes.
Yeah.
So I hope to be completed my program at the same time that the private that my practicum ends.
Oh.
So yes. So
nice.
Hopefully there can be lots of smooth transitions happening for Tessa and I.
Perfect. So we're going to wrap up in just a minute, but I'm curious, what would you say are your key takeaways for the talk we've had today?
Yeah, I think something that kind of stands out for me after our discussion as well is for clients that are seeking a new therapist or a first-time therapist is to allow yourself to reach out and to be open and honest in what it is that you're looking to get out of this kind of a relationship, which will kind of open a lot of doors for you in terms of finding a better fit. That honesty component is really going to help you figure out where that fit is. And explore and read the profiles and do the consultations, and you don't have to just pick someone because they're there. And in fact, they might say no because of that, right? Yeah. So find that one that fits and feels like a place that you feel safe, but that you can also explore challenging yourself.
All right.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think you touched on it a bit, Tessa, but I feel really sort of this process is about trusting your gut. And I know that's a little bit of a cliche, and what does that mean? I also know that for a lot of folks, like reaching out for therapy, like sometimes that relationship's been disrupted and they feel like they can't trust their gut, and like it feels really hard to trust yourself. So that may be even a reason why you're reaching out for therapy. So it can be difficult to be like, trust your gut. But I think deeply, when we can sort of weave through some of that stuff that might come up when we have to make an important decision, you do have that information, and you do have that sensation of what it feels like to find that right fit. And so I just really encourage you to listen to that, and as you do your explorations, and what a great process, as you're reaching out to therapy, to already start tapping into all this inner wisdom.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat, and for helping people get to know both of you a little bit more. Yeah, I really appreciate having this opportunity to talk to both of you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. This was really wonderful to be here.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yay, therapists.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you for joining our conversation today. If you would like to book a session, you can visit our website at safeharbortherapy.com or our booking page at safeharbor.jnap.com. That's SAFEHARBOUR.JANEAPP.com. For more info, or if you have questions or even suggestions for our podcast, you may write us at info@safeharbortherapy.com. We hope you'll join us again for our next conversation with Safe Harbor Therapy.